Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Life of Pi. A boy named Pi who grew up in India and in a zoo, living with various amazing animals like tigers and zebras and monkeys and flamingos in this beautiful location. He lived there all his life with his brother, his mother, and his father. And then the political climate in India had changed, and they needed to leave India, and they sold all their animals. And they got on a Japanese freighter ship. When they're on the freighter ship sinks, and Pi survives the ship sinking, and he's the only person to survive but him and a Bengal tiger, who then have to survive with each other on this little lifeboat in the middle of the Pacific to hopefully be rescued. And Pi's telling the story through a reporter who has been told that Pi had a story that will make him believe in God again, and will make him believe. He's come to Pi, older Pi, who we assume at the beginning has survived because he's telling the story, and that he will tell this writer the story of how he survived this trip with his tiger. A lot of this film is really about belief and how you view the world, and what's the better way to view the world. Like, it's either cynical or spiritual is the argument within this film. That's an argument that the film plays off very well, and it definitely speaks to kind of the spiritual side. I think vaguely spiritual side. There are certain Christian themes and Islamic themes and Hindu themes throughout it. I don't know if it's very specific about a certain religion, so I wouldn't say it's like a particularly religious film, but I would say it's a very spiritual film, and it doesn't fall under the weight of that and come off as cheesy. I'm not very religious at all or spiritual. It made me kind of like the idea of believing. The Pi character has such an open-eyedness about spirituality, and the film really portrays that very well with these stunning visuals that you kind of want to go along with his amazing spiritual ride throughout it. Even though if you know he's being a little too wide-eyed at times, I find myself going with him rather than cynically looking at it. I guess maybe that's the kind of person I am. And a big part of this film is about whether animals have real emotions or have souls. His father says at one point, if you look into an animal's eyes, you're seeing your own emotions reflected back at you, like you're putting that on the animal. And through the character of Richard Parker, who's the tiger, who's not really called Richard Parker, it was actually a mix-up in paperwork, and his real name is Thirsty, and the guy who found him was Richard Parker, and so he became Richard Parker by accident, but people just let the tiger still be Richard Parker, which I think is funny. I like the name Richard Parker for a tiger. It's a good tiger name despite being so human. I think that goes a lot in belief and looking at the world kind of in more of a spiritual way than a cynical way, because in a cynical way is to say, oh, animals are just animals, you can't communicate with them, they don't have souls or anything. But the more spiritual side, it feels more fun way to look at things. They're having just faith in things and having kind of a positive outlook on something, rather than just dealing with a shitty circumstance and just telling it like it is. This film takes on spirituality in a way that makes you understand religion and understand the function of it. I'm not saying you're gonna leave and like convert, but I'm saying you understand why people have that in their lives, as to why people really need a certain religion and need a focus and need something to do within their lives, and what that brings to their life. It has this kind of, you know, easy to take down kind of philosophy behind it, but it's very interesting how it did it, and I think it visually says it very well. It's a very kind of big, massive motion picture, but it has kind of a heart and a soul to it that you don't really expect from something this big. And it even reminds me a bit of David Lean, the way they tell the story, how they told the story of Dr. Zhivago. This film plays more with the storyteller than Dr. Zhivago did, but almost in a conceptual David Lean way. So it's really hard to talk about this film without having a spoiler section, so I have to have a spoiler section. Please do not watch after this, because it really will just ruin the entire movie for you, and part of the experience is not knowing the ending for this film especially. So I would really recommend you do not go past this part. This really has to do with the end, so please stop. So when he is discovered and he has to tell these Japanese investigators for the shipping company what happened, we can't believe this story with, you know, this island of meerkats, with this tiger, with everything you said, that just sounds so unbelievable. And then a film that is incredibly cinematic breaks it, and in such an important way, because I think as cinematic as his story was, the realism, the cynical story, the real story is just his face in a white background. Almost looked like he is just completely white, and just his face telling the story of how the cook was on the ship with him, and the guy who suggested having the rice with gravy, and his mother, and what happened with all that. And then in the end, the Japanese investigators, when the author reads the report, he says, it's surprising that Mr. Pai made it with a Bengal tiger rather than picking the truth, the cynical version. And it reminds me of the ending of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. You either print the man or the myth. What is the nicer story to hear at the end of the day? Would it have been nicer to hear the story of Pai and the story of his survival in the lifeboat by himself, without a tiger, with his mother being killed? Or would it be better to see this amazing cinematic spiritual view that kind of gives you faith in humanity and gives you faith in animals? Sometimes, you need kind of the lie. You need the myth. It's better to have the myth. How much of a bummer was it when you find out what really happened to Pai on that life raft and you realize why people go with the myth? When he's saying like you'll believe in God, I don't think it's saying there is a God or there isn't a God. I don't think this film's really trying to point that out. What I think this film is saying is it's better to believe in God than to not believe in God. It's better to have faith in something, even if you know it's crap. Because that's part of getting older. It's like once you learn that there is no Santa Claus. But I think when you're older, you realize, wasn't it more fun that there was a Santa Claus than there wasn't? I don't know if there is a God or not, but I think what this film's saying is it doesn't matter if there is a God or not, or what kind of God or what religion is right or anything like that. I think this film is really saying that it's so good to have a belief in something and how that can get you through these horrible times, and how this belief in this whole story with Richard Parker, with his meerkats, with all this fantasy, got him through all these hard times. And some people that can be religion, some people that can be comic books or television or sports or making stupid movie reviews on YouTube. And it's something you believe in, and it's something you do, and it helps you get through your day. And is it better to be like, I'm a pathetic schlub who doesn't do anything? Or is it better to do something with your life and have a faith in something? I think I'm kind of more of a glass half full than half empty type of person. As bad as things get in my own life, I do kind of try to look at things that way. Because it is like, in the end of the day, it's like, do you want to dwell in that sadness and the terribleness, or do you want to try to get through it and move on and do something else with your life? And I think Life of Pi is a lot about that. And some people might say, yes, it will make you believe in God, because it's making you believe in something. It's making you realize you need some sort of a purpose. Believing in a tiger like Richard Parker is silly and it's stupid, but it helped him get it through. And in the end, not only did it help him get it through, but we get an amazing story. Isn't it better this way? Isn't it nicer to have seen these animals do this, to be with Richard Parker throughout the whole movie, this awesome tiger on this lifeboat for a whole film, have them have this relationship, than seeing him sit alone by himself for 2 hours? Well, isn't this better? It kind of has a joy and a freedom of life to it. A lot of Oscar stuff, people like, it celebrates the joy of life, and it's usually very cheesy and corny. I think as you could portray this as cheesy and corny, you could really look at it that way. But I really felt that this was very rich, and I felt that it was very compelling and engaging. It really kind of took me over, and I got so wrapped up in the storytelling of this film. And Ang Lee's such a great storyteller. I was so happy to go along on this journey. So if you have seen Life of Pi and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to. They apparently originally shot Tobey Maguire as the journalist in this film. However, Ang Lee thought it would be jarring to have someone that famous as the journalist, so they reshot it with Rafe Spall. I hope I said his name right. The guy who's in it now, which I don't know if that would have been too jarring. I kind of, when I was watching it, I was thinking, like, I wouldn't have minded Tobey Maguire in this movie. Ever since I watched Life of Pi, I keep wanting to lose Richard Parker. Someone's got to name their cat Richard Parker now. You're kind of a tiger. Right, you're a big Richard Parker. Whoa, whoa, where are you going? Oh. I didn't end so well.